So for about 2 years, I'd been working as a manager in a large popular electronics retailer. We were one of the leaders in the field, and we had stores all over the country. I'd been working in the company for over a decade at this point, and had a lot of success at the helm of one of the other locations. So the bosses up at corporate decided to start moving me around, turning around underperforming locations, and I was transferred to one of the least successful stores in the market. For several consecutive quarters, this particular store had been reporting sales figures way below average. And I was brought in as a lead manager to try and improve performance, figure out what this branch was doing wrong. Once I arrived at the new store, I couldn't immediately notice that anything was different from the places I'd managed in the past. Hiring was done centrally, so employees all fit essentially the same profile as the other stores. And we had a steady stream of customers for both sales and repairs. I couldn't figure out what the problem was. The numbers clearly showed that the store was performing below average. So just to mention those numbers a little, all of our salespeople have sets of metrics that they're pushed to make on a monthly basis. There's a strong but unspoken expectation that salespeople will meet their numbers, although their performance is not directly linked to pay grades. Sometimes, if the numbers are poor enough, the salesperson will be transferred to the back, where there's less customer interface, possibly give somebody else a chance to make a stronger impact on the store's performance. It was really strange to me that the store could be performing so poorly when almost all of the company's initiatives came straight from corporate. Obviously, the corporate models weren't perfect. The way they handled information and gave instructions were definitely flawed to a certain extent. So, for example, corporate would just send us a packet or a presentation basically just saying, this is our new business model, and enforce it, make it happen. But the people up there, the guys making these actual models, they had very little clue what was going on the ground level, at the stores. Sometimes they would prepare by running a pilot program, but the pilots were always done in incredibly low volume stores, and corporate just didn't seem to understand that the results from those pilot programs couldn't be replicated in a higher paced, higher volume environment. A new initiative that scheduled technicians to work after store hours from 3 to 12 instead of 10 to 7. It was easy for corporate to say, it was rational, it made sense that this would increase repair speeds by having technicians working without distraction of the store, without customers all over the place. But I had people coming to me all the time complaining that when they were forced to work these new shifts, they didn't have time for their families at night, they couldn't get enough sleep before the next day, they couldn't even drive their kids to school. In another case, our company business model included a system for purposely overbooking repair appointments. So without additional store hours or extra technicians, they simply changed the computer system so that a given technician in a given time slot would be assigned to 2 customers at once. Their solution to an increasing demand was essentially to force employees to multitask. And even worse, these technical staff were assessed based on customer surveys. And customers definitely were not happy when the technician they were working with was helping multiple people at the same time. In general, all these initiatives were awful for employee retention. In one case, I promoted one of my best salespeople to the technical team, which is a great promotion, great benefits, a big step up. But 2 days later, he quit. He just told me that he could already tell that it was going to be much more stressful than what it was worth, and that he had another job already lined up and could make the same money waiting tables without having to deal with the hassles of this structured system that we were putting in place. There was nothing I could do at that point. I felt like so many of the problems the store was having were just out of my control. I realized that essentially the only differences between this store and the branches I'd worked with previously were the employees. I began to set up meetings with all of them individually over the course of the month. And when I was dealing with them, I tried to put aside my authority and encourage them to speak with me openly as one of their coworkers and realized that I was just as much part of the team as they were. And I hope that they could treat me as a peer, as an equal, but also as someone who's also empowered to make some changes. And I think that really worked. They began to open up to me, and I began to realize how much people at this particular store disliked the atmosphere. At the other stores I'd managed, there had been an environment of friendship, communication, camaraderie, even before I'd gotten there. And clearly, the environment at this store that I was working at was drastically different. None of the managers before me had ever asked the employees what their problems were, how they felt about the policies, even though I knew we couldn't change them. But it turned out that both the technicians and the salespeople were working just hard enough to meet the bare minimums of their metrics, towing the line so that they wouldn't be moved to inventory, but never looking to exceed the minimum. And I mean, why should they work harder? There was no corporate policy in place to connect their successes to their salaries, or any other rewards or benefits linked to their performance. So I decided to really focus on reinvigorating the store spirit, improving morale, trying to team build, and encourage just a more generally positive atmosphere. We put up screens in the break room with rotating award pages for the week's best salespeople, so that even if there wasn't a financial reward, they were at least being acknowledged for their accomplishments. We started matching older employees with new hires to create a sort of mentoring system that would improve the performance of both, while also forcing a link between at least pairs within the sales team. We tried to reassess how we were assigning people to tasks, and started matching people to their preferred tasks within the store rather than strictly those that fit the job description. And at the end of the quarter, we started holding meetings for the entire store after hours that were actually more like parties. If people wanted to do a skit or play an instrument, they could perform. Everyone brought baked goods, foods, drink, and we again acknowledged the highest performing techs and salespeople. Everyone voluntarily attended the meeting, which was held after store hours, and it seemed to me like we'd really turn this thing around by focusing on the people as well as the work. At the meeting, I announced the numbers for sales and repairs for the quarter. Not only had we caught up to the rest of the market, but in our customer service statistics, we'd actually exceeded all of the comparable stores. This was a great personal success for me, where I felt as if I had done my job because it was also a great personal success for all of my employees. By creating a more favorable atmosphere and bringing them together as a team, I'd empowered them to a certain extent. They were able to have a sense of agency over the work they were doing, and taking pride in their work was enough motivation for them. It no longer mattered that corporate policy said that there would be no financial reward. Everyone was now approaching this on a personal, emotional level, and the emotional reward was reason enough.